Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called Lord Baby Runs a Romance Fantasy with Cash. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! An angel who introduced himself as the messenger of god Aftanes suddenly descends from above, bearing the good news of an opportunity to be reincarnated. However, the person he offers an opportunity to isn't happy at all. Looking back, she struggled to meet her manager's expectations at work. It was a never-ending, exhausting daily routine, yet they shoved in her face how replaceable she was despite her hard work. However, the only thing that kept her alive was reading Rofan novels. When the heroine decided to leave her house, despite growing up in a golden spoon with a handsome father and brothers, she expressed herself in the comment section, asking if she could be the daughter instead of her. Suddenly, a bright light flashed before her eyes. She got hit by the legendary reincarnation truck. Now sitting beside her lifeless body, the angel hopes she'll enjoy the world created by their god. Aftanes created the world while taking inspiration from various things. Among them, the most inspiration came from romance fantasy novels, specifically designed for her, a devoted fan of Rofan novels. Still, she doesn't understand why she was chosen to reincarnate. However, Aftanes noticed that she has commented on every novel that the god has ever read. And with that last comment, it perfectly makes sense. So this god Aftanes thinks she'll adapt well in the world he created. Wait, it sounds like she was murdered by the god to reincarnate in his world. I don't trust this guy. Her doubts still linger upon the angel's explanation, but she has nothing to lose in this gamble. After all, she's already dead. Still, she hesitates to agree, realizing that she might end up as a trashy character in the novel. And so, she starts to name her conditions, including a special ability. The angel has no problem with that, despite her demands. So she finally agrees to be reincarnated, thinking that it would be a reward for all the hardship she went through. As soon as she utters the words, a contract has just been established. Suddenly, a black portal emerges in the sky as it swallows up her body. She tries to cancel the contract, but the angel, now seemingly has ulterior motives, just smiles with a hidden motive in his eyes. As she gets swallowed up by the portal, the angel assures her not to worry about her abilities, for he has granted something that suits her best, further claiming that she belongs to him. In the novel world, she finds herself reincarnated as a little girl, scrubbing the floor with a brush, cursing the angel for deceiving her. What? Where's the life the angel promised to her? This poor little girl whimpers in sorrow, regretting her decision on the matter. Maybe she shouldn't have reincarnated back then. Suddenly, her uncle, the Marquis, scolds her for being lazy at work, to which she quickly apologizes for. He then further calls her out not to call him uncle because she may not be the Duke's real daughter. Excuse me, sir, are you accusing our lovely girl here? She trembles at his remarks, reminiscing how she used to have a lavish and beautiful life, born into a good family. But one day, everything fell apart. She clearly isn't the heroine of this world. Her cousin Clady, who would have been the heroine, isn't helping at all. She herself is a bully by nature, just like her father. That night, she suffers from her aching wound with no dinner for a week, meaning she just has to survive on one meal a day. How cruel! Clady isn't really of a big help. Although she is her cousin, she speaks like her father about the food cost. My God, sir, she's just a small and fragile child. She doesn't eat like a soldier who hasn't eaten for days. Also, her uncle mocks her for being unable to use magic at all. Quietly sobbing on her bed, she starts to blame the angel for promising her nothing but a miserable life. Even so, she has to survive in this zero-star world. Later on, Clady celebrates her birthday. The nobles praise her dress worth as much as the whole mansion. Her uncle keeps nagging her about food costs as if she eats like a giant being. On the other hand, seeing how Clady has been praised by everyone, she feels unloved. Just then, Clady asks to wipe off the stain from the shoe, without anyone helping her, even the other servants. She's mocked despite the presence of the nobles around. She endures it even if her hands tremble at Clady's remarks. Suddenly, a man with dark hair deeper than the abyss and eyes squinting redder than roses tainted by pigeon blood, arrives at the birthday banquet. He doesn't remember that his daughter was born blonde. Why does he look so familiar? He looks like someone I'm going to end up in life with. She looks at her father earnestly, recognizing him as the Duke Phaeton. Duke Phaeton pierces his gaze upon his brother, the Marquis, who obviously wasn't expecting his brother's early return from the war. When the Duke asks for the identity of the child in front of him, the Marquise tries to reason out that she's just another servant in the house. In her mind, the Duke obviously isn't happy that she is his own blood, but even so, she still boldly asks the Duke to take her with him. She then promises to do everything, including cleaning, just to get out of the Marquise's mansion. Her eyes sprinkle with tears, asking the Duke to take her home. When the Duke tells her that she's so bold at asking, she abruptly speaks out the truth. She's apparently his child. The Duke, with a scary face, lifts her up like a puppy and asks his assistant to immediately go back. Just like that, her life as a servant finally closes its chapter. Meanwhile, Clady suffers from great humiliation upon seeing her lavish dress turn into a ragged one. As they're heading out, the Duke's remarks remain in the Marquise mansion, telling him that he has to be greedy to be greedy. 10 days later, she woke up in a comfortable bed and her health recovered quickly. However, the Duke never comes to visit. It doesn't mean that she really wants to see him, given how she acted embarrassingly last time, but at least in his care, no one beats her and she doesn't have to starve. And so she decides that she wants to stay in the Duke's mansion. In order to do that, she must figure out what kind of person he is, even though their distance seems like on the other side of the long bridge. No matter how she analyzes it, the Duke seems to be a good person, so in order to give back his kindness, she must pay for the meal first. She then starts cleaning the window of the mansion, thinking that an abandoned child can never become a kid again. The servants try to stop her, but only then, when the Duke comes, that she stops doing useless things. The Duke grabs her waist and carries her into the dining hall, asking if she's hungry. Poor child, she has abandonment trauma, so every time the Duke carries her, she'd think that the Duke will throw her out again. In the dining hall, the Duke coldly asks her to continue eating. However, her belly is already about to burst. God, he must really work on that deadly personality in front of the child. Luckily, one of the servants, Anna, addresses this concern to the Duke. Just then, the Duke appoints her as the child's lady-in-waiting. Realizing how she just got a dedicated servant, she asks the Duke if she could stay in the mansion, to which the Duke blatantly calls nonsense. After that, a deafening silence envelops the room. Feeling the awkwardness in the atmosphere as the Duke keeps staring at her coldly. Thankfully, the Duke's assistant delivers the news that the Imperial Palace wants to summon him for his early return. Before he leaves, he clearly instructs the child not to do anything foolish. The child responds well, but at the back of her mind, she's furious that he didn't notice how she has cleaned the window pane so spotlessly. Life is difficult for her, but at least she doesn't have to worry about filling her stomach anytime she gets hungry. In her room, Anna explains that she doesn't have to do chores anymore because the Duke doesn't intend on abandoning her. There, she realizes that all the people around her worry and care for her well-being. She's different from other young masters, but being reincarnated is not something normal at all. But at this moment, this is the first time she feels the living energy of people. That night, she remembers what Anna said. If she's the real daughter of the Duke, she doesn't have to feel so insecure, but she still worries of being an illegitimate child, just like what her uncle said. A mother she has never seen before, despite hearing about her all her life. More than anything, the Duke with jet black hair, blood-red eyes, and a face as sharp as a refined sword are nothing in common to her soft pink hair like springtime petals, and crystal blue eyes like Paraba gemstone. If her uncle's words are true, she might not end up being kicked out, but being beheaded instead. So if she wants to survive, she has to put in her efforts like a real daughter. She can pull it off because she's a pro-romance fantasy reader who has read thousands of romance fantasy novels. Morning comes. She stands before the Duke's room, counting to 10 before entering. However, before she can even start, the Duke's assistant opens the door. The Duke sits on a couch with his chest barely exposed. Oh God, he's so fine! The child rushes to his side and hugs his legs, telling him that she misses him. Everyone in the room is in shock of how the child reacts upon seeing the Duke. But she's now unstoppable. The Duke is aware that he is making her uncomfortable, but she's just unfamiliar with the feeling with a father on her side. So sticking together will help increase affection even when he learns that she's not his real daughter. She then places her palms onto his cheeks, feeling the softness of his skin. Suddenly, a notification pops up stating that the conditions are already met. Numerous notifications that only our female lead can see keeps on popping up, much to her surprise. They tell her that she's now unlocked the ability of Rush and Cash. She blankly stares at them, thinking that perhaps they're an illusion, when suddenly, she remembers the deal she made with the demon Aftanes. He did say that she'll gain powers along with her new life, and this must be it. Well, looks like he didn't scam her after all. Unfortunately, she gets snapped back to reality when Duke Ferriton makes a comment about her saying his skin is soft like a baby. Stop daydreaming, female lead. Anyhow, the Duke merely puts her down on his lap and without another word continuously pokes his daughter's soft cheeks. The child also accepts this, seeing as how she's hoping the saying that touching your child's face will bring you closer to them. She starts thinking she's cute, but her father just bluntly states that she looks like an angry puffer fish. After the Duke adjourns the meeting, he brings the rather shocked female lead with him wherever he goes, only separating when he said it's time for her bath, though she's still a bit clean. While doing so, the lead thinks about why the Duke had been closer to her. Perhaps owing to her sudden show of affection, but she decides that's not the most important thing to think about. Besides, she has more important things to do, and now being alone in her room, she can finally go about it. Because she shifted her attention to the Duke earlier, the notifications disappeared, and so she successfully summoned them again. Turns out, the ability really is from a Fontes, though the devil reasons it's something that proves this whole thing isn't a scam. Though her attribute level is F, her ability allows her to summon rom fan novels and use the main character's abilities. With this, she can conquer the world. However, her daydreaming comes to a halt when another notification pops up. She's been given a new mission, one entitled Prove Your Worth. This indicates that life in a rom fan novel will never get easier. Anyway, her mission is to perfect her own ability with the condition of acquiring a summon medium. She'll also be rewarded with 500 cash. Naturally, she accepts the mission, but she has no idea where to get a summon medium. She thinks that perhaps it exists in the family heirlooms, but she's scared to ask for it directly from her father, and so she decides to sleep it off and think about it in the morning. Tons of maids attend to her when she wakes up, and she uses this opportunity to ask for and hint that she wants to see the family heirlooms. And turns out, she didn't need to go find her father, as he sends for her for breakfast. Despite the grand breakfast, the female lead feels like she's going to be sick, perhaps from being awkward with the Duke. A sudden newfound resolve burns within her, promising that she has to get used to her father eventually. And so she greets and thanks him for the meal with the biggest smile possible, though he doesn't acknowledge it. Oh, she even feels tears coming on as her efforts were dismissed. Anyhow, she gets distracted by how good the pudding tastes, and she wolfs it down without even noticing. And seeing his child without her favorite food, the Duke gives her his share, merely telling her to eat it before going back to his paper. The little girl could only mutter thank you. So he does pay attention to her. The awkwardness doesn't stop there, as after their meal, the Duke asks why she isn't sticking close to him. He suddenly reaches for her and carries her around the house again. This makes the female lead think about all the things he's done so far for her. He is usually gone for business by this time, but he waited for her. He's also let her accompany him everywhere, simply because she told him she likes to stick to him. She still feels embarrassed about it though, but she still has to find the summon medium. So when the Duke asks her what the matter is, she pounces on the opportunity, saying she'd like to look at pretty things. Anna also backed her up, saying that the young lady had asked about the family heirlooms earlier. She gets anxious, thinking the Duke will take that the wrong way, but he gets up to take her there without another word. This makes her think that perhaps her father is a good villain, if there ever is one, that is. Anyway, all the treasures she finds there in the room aren't really treasures, but more like spoils of war. The young lady glances around and a particular old book catches her attention, mainly because a notification alerted her it would be perfect with her ability. Looks like she finally found it. Turns out it's a sealed book, and though nothing is sealed inside it for the moment, it is kept because it was a founding Duke's most valued treasure. Even the young lady's persuasions didn't work on the Duke when she tried to ask for it. Suddenly, another notification pops up about a bonus mission, which is to persuade the Duke to give her the book. This time, the quest includes clues, and those are little hearts on the Duke's face. It means she has to kiss him. The young lady figures that the little hearts on her father's cheek means that she must kiss him. But seeing as she gets flustered thinking about it, she decides to calm down and convince him first instead. In the most innocent way possible, she again asks for the book, but this time she promises that she'll take care of it so that it won't get an owie. But all this does is create more little hearts around her father, and they've even started to say that she should kiss him. Now, that's a hint. And so she calls him to get closer to his face. All the while, she notes that the Duke's expression is that of one that doesn't know what's coming. She hugs her father's neck and plants a kiss on his cheek. For that sweet moment, even the assistant is shocked seeing his master receive affection. Without another word, the Duke stretches his hand and the seal on the book explodes and it flies to his grasp. The young lady concludes that perhaps her father didn't take it out to protect her if something really was sealed inside the book. The Duke's assistant reminds him of the historical significance of the book, wary that the young lady may destroy it accidentally. However, the Duke just glares at him to remind him of the true owner of the book. If looks could kill. The young lady continues to praise for her dad, and when another heart appears, she makes a mental note to strangle Aftanes if she ever gets the chance, but kisses her father regardless. Not like she can complain though, as when her mission is completed, she gains a ton of bonus cash tickets to spend for her ability. After quite an event, the Duke still brings his daughter to all his affairs, even the meeting with his advisors regarding keeping tabs on Marquis Terenka and his Mana Stone mining endeavor with his investors. It should have failed since the Mana Stones mined have no mana, but the Duke assumes the drunken slip of Marquel Chirodal that the Feraton name is being used by Terenka in his investment fraud. Our female lead isn't as clueless about all this either. She also arrives at the same conclusion as her father, that Terenka directly convinced his investors using their family name. That the Feraton name is being used by Terenka in his investment fraud. Duke Feraton can't help but be shocked with his daughter's apparent intelligence. The little lady, on the other hand, knowing she said too much, tries to reason that she heard her uncle, the Marquis, telling his investors that her father had also invested. Even if she's just trying to not sound weird, what she's saying also helps her father's counsel. She also recalls how her uncle showed supposed evidence from Duke Feraton, which is money inside his personalized envelope with the Duke's own seal. Unfortunately, the realization hits her. Her father really did give the Marquis money regardless. Judging by his counsel's reaction, it would be bad for the dukedom if word gets out he did so, and they'd be indicted for fraud. The Duke, however, keeps his eyes on his daughter and asks how she managed to hear that. The poor girl thinks she's being doubted, so she admits she heard it when the Marquis had her shine his shoes. However, the advisors reveal that all the money the Duke sent was for child support. This makes the young lady think how they're doubting her even more, so she lets out how she's been living under the Marquis. All the hardships, all the challenges, simply because her uncle made her believe she had been abandoned. Tears start to roll down on her cheeks, the poor girl. Suddenly, the Duke exposes his controlled anger, directing it at his advisors, who continuously pressured his daughter. Thick plumes of magical black smoke arose from his body, engulfing and choking his men. Though he was the first to question her, his actions made the girl think he was worried for her. He even reaches down to lift her up again. The Duke also notices her long and ripped sleeves, so he had a tailor sent for. Next thing she knows, the female lead wakes up alone in her room, so she assumes that Anna, her nanny, must have picked her up and put her to bed. Or perhaps your daddy. Regardless, she now has a chance to examine her summon medium since she's alone. Initially, she's scared of damaging the book since it's already old. But when she opens it, it begins to change appearance as if it's new. She thinks of all the magic inside, so she opens it again, and this time, a notification appears, telling her the medium has been unsealed and her ability is no longer restricted. The young miss is ecstatic to learn that she can finally use her ability. She's even given a quest to use it. Using some pretty elaborate incantation, she tries to summon a novel. However, she is gravely disappointed to find out she doesn't have enough cash. Oh, lack of money. A problem that exists both in the real world and fantasy world. Unfortunately, she happens to have 5,000 cash draw tickets, but she lucks out again for she only manages to gain 100 cash. She won't be able to summon a novel with just 1,100 cash. As she despairs her unfortunate circumstance, she remembers receiving a notification earlier. Upon opening it, she finds out that because Duke Feraton is at the highest satisfaction, she gets a reward. A novel rental ticket. Thanks to her daddy, she gets to use a whole novel temporarily. When the maids arrive to ready her for the day, she frantically hides the book under the covers. She is then horrified to learn that she apparently fell asleep on the Duke's lap. What's even worse is that he was the one to carry her to bed. The young miss is more than sure that she has to forfeit her life at this point. She shakily tells Anna to make sure this doesn't happen again, for the Duke might find her bothersome. Anna is bothered that she would think of such a thing when she sees how much the Duke adored the young miss. The little lady instantly feels guilty for making her maid worried, assuring her that she's fine. Anna continues by saying that she has always seen the Duke as someone flawless, but she has come to realize by observing how the Duke treats his daughter that he is actually clumsy. Meanwhile, foul Marquis Terenka is in a tight spot when one by one his investors started withdrawing. He even has to ensure that his father does not find out about the situation. In order to get control of the situation, he orders Clady to visit her cousin. The girl is as spoiled and self-centered as ever, but he manages to convince her to go. We can only expect this little creature to be especially evil to our dear little baby. The maids receive a bunch of drawings from their precious lady, and to say that they are happy is an understatement. The child's cute scribbles are able to pierce their heart and endear the girl to them even more. After they profess their eternal devotion to the young miss, they inform her that it is time for her to visit the glass greenhouse. This overjoys her to the point that she carelessly runs. Unfortunately, she ends up tripping and falling to the ground. She is in tears because of her clumsiness, and at that moment, the Duke finds her. He questions why she's in that state, so she explains what has happened. She is quite annoyed that the Duke does not instantly understand that little children tend to fall down a lot. She manages to charm her daddy to carry her, and as a secret softie, the Duke does so instantaneously. His expression turns cold, however, when he sees the bruises on her knee. He carries the child back to the manor despite her protests. He comments about how weak she is again, so the young miss overthinks again that she'll get abandoned for it. But the Duke surprises everyone by putting the medication on himself. Even though he is wearing a frightening expression, he is quite gentle to her. That is when they are informed of the arrival of the people from the boutique. Rather than putting the child down and going to his own affairs, the Duke makes quite a spectacle when he carries his daughter all the way to the drawing room, intent on staying with her. The designer, Eutrophilia, is sure that she's meeting someone fearsome like the rest of the Faraton duchy. But the moment the Duke enters with the young miss, she can't believe her own eyes. In the arms of the infamously threatening Duke is the cutest and softest baby there is. She observes that the Duke must adore his daughter, so much to the point that he does not even put her down when her measurements are being taken. Using her skills in flattery, she comments that the lady must like the Duke so much, seeing as she is behaving in his arms. Dismissively, the Duke explains that they are only like that because the child wants to stick to him like glue. Oh, Mr. Duke, you obviously love doting on your daughter. No need to act so tough. The vassals also take this opportunity to flatter the Duke by announcing how much the young miss likes her father. The young miss is becoming increasingly confused by the way they're acting. But then she sees that slight smile that formed on the Duke's face before he turns away. One vassal then boldly asks her how much she likes the Duke. After some deliberation, the young miss shows a gesture with her thumb and index finger, measuring a small portion, announcing that that's how much she likes her daddy. Hearing the words that the little girl has uttered, the vassals begin preparing to meet their end. They can practically feel as well as see how much darker and heavier that Duke's aura has become. In their moment of despair, the lady clarifies that the small amount is to be subtracted from everything in the universe. That is how much she likes her daddy. She is just using her charms once again, and boy is it effective. When asked why she has taken out a small portion, she quickly comes up with an answer by saying that she'll like her daddy even more if they spend more time together. As she nuzzles against her father, she rejoices that she manages to get past that sticky situation with ease. However, when she looks up, she is disappointed to see his cold expression, assuming that he does not like her affection. But then, to everyone's surprise, the Duke declares that he'll buy every dress that the boutique has sent, filling Yucha's pockets to her delight. But he has a condition. The cuffs must not cover her palms in any way. That is when the little miss realizes that the Duke does not want her to ever attempt to polish anyone's shoes with her sleeves. Aw, her dad may look like a block of ice, but he is incredibly thoughtful. Later on, Clady arrives at the Faraton Duchy, and her jaw drops upon seeing its opulence. When she arrives, she acts all privileged like the spoiled brat that she is, even though she's literally visiting from someone else's house. She enters with her head held high, even when the butler is still speaking to her about her unexpected arrival. She is amazed at how grand the manor is, even more so when she sees the majestic portrait of her uncle. She even has the audacity to think that the Duke will dote on her more than his own daughter, still convinced that her cousin is an illegitimate child. Ugh, this kid really gets on my nerves. Clady rushes to see the young miss of Faraton, expecting to see her scrawny and ill-dressed cousin. But the girl she meets is a completely different person. The young lady does not even recognize her present, and bratty Clady is irked by this. She calls her cousin brazen, but the little lady reminds her that she is the uninvited guest who does not greet her. Clady then begins acting high and mighty, calling the young miss shameless when she isn't even the Duke's daughter. With an evil smile on her face, she tells her cousin how she does not deserve the Faraton surname. Jeez, I have never hated a child more than I do now. Clady's words pain the young miss, knowing that there's a possibility of her words being true. That is when an unexpected quest appears before her. She is tasked to get rid of the sweet potato with cider, aka she must rid herself of this unpleasant person before her. The price for this quest is 2,000 cash draw tickets. And just like in the real world, cash is a great motivator, which is why she easily accepted the challenge. She then stands her ground and begins talking back at Clady, clapping back so hard that the irksome girl is speechless for a moment. Despite Clady's continuous stream of mean words to bring her down, she does not back down. She reminds her cousin that she has no right to call Lady Phaeton arrogant, pointing out her lack of etiquette at the same time. Predictably, Clady mentions her apparent illegitimacy once again, desperately trying to gain the upper hand. With a cold look in her eyes, she challenges Clady to take responsibility for her words and to swear on the Terenka Marquis state. The arrogant girl does this, not expecting the young miss to call upon her servants. Horrified, Clady acts as if she is the victim before the servants, claiming that the young miss is being mean to her. The young miss is stumped by the sudden turn of events, memories of her being alone fresh on her mind. That is when her loyal maids begin defending her, hiding her behind them to protect her. Still dedicated to being the victim, Clady even declares that she has brought a gift for the young miss, an old dress of hers that she's seen her cousin eyeing before. Clady forcefully makes her take the dress, claiming that as her Oni, she will forgive her. Gosh, such insolence! Before she can manipulate the young miss further, a booming voice is heard around them. The Duke has arrived, and he is asking why someone who has stolen his daughter's clothes has so many words to give. Yay! Daddy has arrived! Moving on. Turns out, the Duke was in the Imperial meeting hall earlier. He overheard some officials talk about how their children love it when they buy them something special themselves rather than asking the footman to buy them. It was apparently more significant when a father buys stuff for their children personally. He even demands to know where a shop that sells eclairs is, intending to get a sweet kiss from his daughter for it. However, he is interrupted when he is informed of something that has happened in the duchy. Without hesitation, the Duke exits the meeting with a dark aura surrounding him. It was obvious that the Duke did not look happy, the reason being that Lady Terenka had visited his precious daughter. Ercole decided to comment on how good it was that the Duke was cherishing and adoring his daughter. The Duke once again chalked it up to her being of the Phaeton bloodline and his responsibility to guard her until she comes of age. But then the Duke mentioned how strange his youngest was. Other than the obvious lack of magic, the way she acted was incomprehensible to him. What was even more confusing was how he was reacting. His tender emotions toward her were so abnormal to him. Poor guy can't even recognize affection to save himself. Oh. The aide realized then that his master, the pride and joy of the Empire, is just a fool for his daughter. That he is. He only wishes that the Duke will someday recognize these symptoms for what they are. As the Duke speeds to his estate, his thoughts revolve around the treacherous Marquise Terenka, thoughts that would no doubt not end well for the worst uncle in the world. Back in the present, Clady instantly brightens upon seeing the Duke, running towards him as if they are so close. But then she is pathetically left hanging when the Duke does not even spare her a glance by passing her to reach his daughter. Clady turns to see that the Duke has hugged the young miss unprompted, someone who isn't actually his daughter. She immediately assumes that the Duke has misunderstood her, thinking that her cousin has spoken poorly of her to her uncle. With so much audacity filling her little body, Clady declares that she forgives the Duke for believing in the young miss's lies, and that she even apologizes on behalf of her cousin for lying about her. Honestly, I can't with this kid. Her arrogance and self-importance are staggering. The young miss begins feeling depressed. She is jealous of how her cousin manages to be this confident, for she has received love all her life. Clady has never needed to question her place in this world the way she had to. But the Duke's expression only becomes increasingly frightening until he questions the young Lady Terenka why he saw her wearing the dress that he had prepared for his daughter the day he arrived to fetch her. Oh, so that dress was not hers all along! Karma is a force to be reckoned with indeed. The little Lady of Phaeton then realizes that her father was not displeased by her that day. He is talking about how pitiful she looked when he went to retrieve her. Clady is frantic as she denies his allegation, claiming that her father had gifted her that dress for her birthday, just like he always does every year. She then makes the horrible mistake of pointing at the young miss and calling her a moron. Darkness suddenly invades the room, and Clady drops to the floor in an instant. When he learns that the people at the Marquis's estate have grown accustomed to calling his daughter a moron, the Duke's anger is indescribable. At this point, Clady is fearing for her life, remembering the tales of Phaeton's cruelty. But she just doesn't have that much tact, apparently, because she calls the young miss a dirty, illegitimate child, angering the Duke further. Good thing the Duke figures that it is better for her to be alive anyway, harshly telling her to scram. Later on, the young miss finds herself resting on her father's lap. She remembers how everything turned black when Clady called her a moron, so she doesn't know what happened after that. As she enjoys a warm drink, the Duke is coldly looking at the soldiers before him. He tells them how a bug managed to enter the duchy and how it is their fault for not doing their duties properly. He asks them how they should be punished, and without batting an eyelash, the soldiers declare that they will repay their mistake with their lives. Naturally, the child is horrified by the idea, especially since the whole ordeal happened because of her. Right when the soldiers are about to use their own swords, the little lady protests loudly, stopping them in their tracks. She explains that it is normal for kids to quarrel, so punishment for the soldiers is not needed. She then drinks her beverage again, and the Duke notices that she has a milk mustache. He wipes it and licks his finger like it's the most normal thing in the world. Meanwhile, the people around them are in disbelief upon seeing their master do such a fatherly action. What's more is that the soldiers are looking at her with so much gratitude. With just some simple yet adorable actions, she manages to gain the respect of most of the people in the duchy. Because of her increase in influence, she is rewarded with 5,000 cash. All thanks to our little lady's charms. Later in her room, she's incredibly sleepy and is waiting for her quest calculations. When it is finished, she is horrified to learn that it is a partial failure. How can this be? She thinks it as a success because Clady was sent back home. Turns out it was not enough, for even she got a penalty for being a flat cider, aka failing to give a satisfying way to get rid of unpleasantness. Her reincarnation buffer will randomly disappear at any time. Unfortunately, she isn't entirely sure what a buff even is. At that moment, the Duke enters her chamber. Ken, I just pointed out, there is absolutely no reason for him to be this attractive. Come on, I can't concentrate. When the Duke sits down on her bed, she realizes what exactly the penalty was. She will act like a regular child at any moment, saying things like "fwood" and "gimme gookie," much to the Duke's confusion. She can't believe that she'll lose her thinking skills at any moment, turning into a total baby. Suddenly, the Duke asks her about Architus, the heirloom book she has borrowed, which is now her mediator item. Unfortunately, due to the punishment, she accidentally tells the Duke that the old and fragile book has become prettier. The Duke's expression becomes serious after this, but the young miss is busy being like a kid to be scared. Instead, she pats the Duke's hair and talks about random things. By the time she comes back to herself, the Duke is already quite dead set on finding out more about the book. The young miss is internally panicking, not knowing how to fix the situation. She can't just tell him the truth because that book is precious to the Phaeton. She doesn't want to be labeled a troublemaker for ruining it. Gathering all her courage, the young miss does the only thing she could think to do at that moment. Later on, Heinz finds his master gazing pensively out the window. Out of all the words he expects the Duke to utter, asking him if he is ugly is not one of them. How can a guy who is literally the reincarnation of Adonis be insecure about his looks? Turns out the young miss, as a strategy, threw a tantrum earlier. She continually denied that the Duke was her father because he scared and glared at her. She then declared that her daddy was a handsome daddy, implying that the Duke was not handsome. She then continued that her real daddy was rich and loved her so much. By the way, I would like to get in with all this daddy action, although for an entirely different context. Nothing. Let's continue. The Duke rationally thought that the girl was still a member of the Phaeton Duchy, and that he should be disappointed with her for ruining the book and being irresponsible, but strangely, he didn't want to punish her. Instead, he wanted to comfort her. He began reaching out to her, but the child tearfully declared that she hated him. The poor guy's feelings were obviously so hurt. Oh. At present, in the middle of recounting the occurrence to Heinz, the Duke sees the maids giggling about something they are holding. With a menacing expression, he demands to see what they are looking at, so Anna is forced to give the piece of paper to him. Turns out, it's the young miss's drawing for her, even though she looks like a pineapple in the picture. He even learns that the other maids have gotten pictures from the young lady as well. The maids then flatter him by saying that the drawings that the lady has given him are probably way superior to theirs. After all, he is her father. Unaware, the maids continue chattering about what kind of drawings the young lady might have gifted to him, which only fouls his mood even more. With a dark aura, he reveals to them that he did not receive a single drawing from his daughter. Nancy and the other personnel of the house starts a meeting with the Duke Phaeton about recent events regarding his daughter. Actually, the Duke seems to take this more seriously and more calmly than his other official business meetings. Anyhow, the maids analyze that the Duke made his daughter cry and that he hasn't received a drawing from her. The only possible conclusion? She hates her dad. Nancy could have said this better, though, judging by her peer's expression. I mean, that is the Duke you're talking to. But actually, the Duke wasn't angry, but rather seemed hung up on the fact that his daughter said he wasn't her real dad, on top of hating him when Anna had asked him about it. The maids immediately try asking if the Duke had been gentle in talking with the little lady, and asks him if he ever feels anything when he's with her. Like a father who doesn't know he's being a great dad, admits that he does cherish the moments he spends with his daughter. Upon seeing the genuine concern on the Duke's face, the maids urge him to visit his daughter again. But this time, the Duke asks what the words yummy and cookies mean, the exact words his daughter had rambled before. The staff gets a stern look in their eyes, as if they finally figure out how to bring the father and daughter together again. Speaking of, she still feels pretty bummed out because of the way she acted, and because of her stupid punishment. Anna suddenly asks if she wants a snack, to which she says no to. But suddenly, the Duke enters the room carrying a plate of cookies. After a second of silence, he, as innocent as can be, declares, "Let's yummy," in order to get his daughter to eat. He's unintentionally funny. Anyway, the snack helps the two get closer again, and the Duke begins talking in honorifics in an effort to follow Anna's advice to be respectful. He assures his daughter that no one will hurt her again, and his daughter realized he had come to comfort her. He also asks her if she'd like to say anything else, but trying to avoid another fight, she lies and says no. But the Duke cuts her off, admitting his fault on letting Marquise Terenka take care of her, and says that she can cry. This leads his daughter to burst into tears, finally letting out all the pain she had, thinking her father had abandoned her. The Duke pulls her close, where she felt his warmth, and again says sorry. He's truly a candidate for Best Fictional Father. It makes me cry. Another morning, the Duke Ferriton is again in another meeting. However, as his advisors notice, a certain weird sound echoes throughout the room, and what's more, it seems to bother the Duke. Finally, the Duke leaves the meeting abruptly and strolls towards the gardens of his estate, where his daughter is gleefully running. It also seems that the sound is coming from her shoes, something that is actually quite cute. However, they thought the Duke would be angry, but on the contrary, he merely picked up his daughter and warned her that she'll fall again if she runs like that. Even a hint of a smile forms on his face. Back at the meeting, this time his daughter on his lap, the Duke declares he has an important announcement. He lifts his daughter's shoes and presses them from a certain area, making a sound. Turns out he made them so that he'll know when she's walking and it'll change when she's running. He orders his men to immediately protect his daughter when it happens, regardless of what happens to his men. The Duke's so unintentionally funny when he goes overboard protecting his daughter. Anyhow, the Reformation ceremony and his daughter's appearance on it is mentioned during the meeting, and the Duke dismisses it, seeing as she's too young to deal with old aristocrats. The advisors state that they'll cross out her name from the sheet, and suddenly it hits her. Our heroine has never learned her name. Come to think of it, there hasn't been any mention of her name, and it's 18 chapters in. She innocently asks her father about it, and also her age. This, however, garners a shocked and pitiful reaction from the advisors present. Suddenly, the meeting is adjourned, and she finds herself alone. She begins to doubt if her question was meaningless, but truthfully, she never had anyone refer to her by her name. The Marquise and Clady had always degraded her with terms like illegitimate child. When her father comes in, she comes to realize that same as the last time, he drops the topic because he doesn't want her to remember bad memories. And so she says she doesn't care about a name, since he's already there taking care of her. But she does have one, and the Duke tells her that her name is Rostisa. It triggers a distant memory for her, perhaps her mother, and Rostia cries and caresses her father's hand as he says her name again. Rostisa wakes up next to her father, which makes the young girl flustered, seeing as they never really had that interaction before. What's more, she notices tear marks on the Duke's clothes, which are clearly from her, adding to her shyness. The Duke then tries to leave and attend to his documents, perhaps to let his daughter sleep in peace. But Rostisa adamantly refuses to let him go, and with teary puppy eyes, even saying she will hate him if he really does leave. Actually, she's just regressing into a child because of her punishment. Nonetheless, the Duke decides to stay, and Rostisa sees her father take off his tear-stained upper garments. She asks him if he's in pain, making the Duke smile, thinking she's referring to him hitting a pillow. But actually, Rostisa has seen his large scar near his left hip, and the Duke gets a rather unreadable expression in his eyes, as he dismisses his innocent daughter's concerns. He instead covers her eyes, reasoning that his scar looks ugly. Perhaps the Duke is still hurt with Rostisa's accidental comments from before. His child asks him if he was injured in the war, to which the Duke replies he wasn't. And so Rostisa scoots closer to her father and tries to blow on her father's long-healed scar. Oh, how cute! She even says she's doing it now because she couldn't help ease her father's pain before. Though the Duke assures her that he's no longer in pain, Rostisa is adamant about helping because she believes there's no pain that does not hurt people. The Duke is also aware of this, aware of the ominous glances that exist in their world, aware that it is his duty to protect his daughter from it all. He reveals that ever since he got his daughter back, he's been visiting her every night up until he had to leave for a war, which explains why she never saw him. He wasn't worried about it though. He wasn't even wounded in battle. His only worry was that he had to go home quickly for his daughter. Rostisa finally realizes that her father hadn't abandoned her. About that, the Duke also apologizes for leaving her with Marquise Tarenka. He also reveals magic isn't an innate ability, and it had killed his sons before. It turns out that he had offered to take care of her, and believing that his child would be cared for and away from other magicians, the Duke agreed. Rostisa wonders why her father apologizes when it was her uncle at fault. Regardless, the Duke wants her to know that he never did abandon her, and no matter what, he'll always be a father. Actually, despite all her conditions for reincarnation, it turns out that all Rostisa wanted was a loving family. At least she has that with the Duke. Rostisa and her father decide to have tea in their gardens. Rostisa finally learns that she's 4 years old, and according to her father, she was born on October 11th. Unfortunately, this means that her birthday has already passed for this year. Seeing his daughter's reaction, the Duke promises that her birthday next year will be grander than that of royal celebrations. Come to think of it, Rostisa thinks that her father is feeling guilty about missing all those birthdays. Actually, the Duke sends her birthday dresses every year, though Clady steals it. And so our heroine feels loved, knowing despite all the trouble her father faced during the war, he never forgot to celebrate his only daughter's birthday. That relief doesn't last long, though, as Rostisa admits she thought the Duke hated her birthday. Also, she can't very well say that it was supposedly because her mother had an affair. The truth was, her uncle had lied that her mother died while giving birth to her. The Duke's red eyes glowed with anger, but they immediately calmed when he called his daughter closer. Having her sit on his lap, the Duke reveals that it was Rostisa's mother who named her, and she was alive long enough to even breastfeed her. So it was her in her distant memories. He finishes by saying her birthday is something worth celebrating, and he also promises that he'll never miss another one again. Rostisa takes her father's hands, and although they're rough, there's nothing bigger and warmer in the whole world. And so she asks him if they make a promise. She makes one where he'll be her dad no matter what, and he agrees to it. After a convoluted handshake that leaves the Duke stumped. Meanwhile, during the Duke's meeting with his advisors, the entire room fills with outrage at the mistreatment their young lady experienced under Marquise Tarenka, especially of the fact that her name was kept from her. The Duke is angry too, but he remains calm enough to ask what the Marquise's situation was. Fortunately, it seems that the business scam he's running is taking a major hit. The order to cut off the capital has already been executed, and more astute investors either withdrew or questioned the entire thing. Duke Ferriton thinks that the Marquise is every bit a person trying to gain financial power, trying to become one of the rich that stands above the poor aristocracy. What's even more chilling is the fact that the Duke, almost like a promise, says that the Marquise's suffering is not enough. What are you plotting there, Duke? Rostisa finds herself enjoying a rather heavenly sleep, complete with the sun shining ever so gracefully in her room. Unfortunately, even this moment of peace gets interrupted, and the young girl reminds whoever woke her up that being 4 years old, she still needs sleep, begins to complain. But actually, it isn't a who, but rather a what. Out of the blue, a new task popped up. This one, entitled Self-Revenge, notifies Rostisa that now isn't the time to sleep, as her father, the Duke Ferriton, is now plotting to take revenge against the Marquise. Her anger turns into excitement, mainly because she rightly guessed her father would be ruthless in seeking revenge. Unfortunately, this new mission has another idea. It turns out that it wants Rostisa to take revenge all on her own. But what could a 4-year-old child achieve in terms of revenge? Regardless, the notification proceeds to give her the conditions of the mission. To fulfill it, she must recover the property that the Marquise had bought from the maintenance fee given by the Duke, specifically the Mana Quarry ownership and the Mana Stone Excavation Authority. When she tried to ask the prompt for a hint, unfortunately, it increased the chance for tasteless soda, the punishment that makes her go back to a child, to occur at random. However, completing the challenge will remove the punishment entirely. Rostisa remembers how the punishment had complicated things before, and so, with this newfound inspiration, she gladly accepts the challenge. With her first move, she finally decides to make use of the book that allows her to summon. she decides to summon the novel I Seduced 10 Men in the Reverse Harem World to make use of the main character's ability. Well, that's some name for a novel. With her current level, Rostisa can make use of only 5 abilities, but she can only pick one. It all works out because she got the ability to essentially read people's emotions and thoughts and have it displayed to her for 3 hours. Unfortunately, it seems that because the novel she chose is unfinished, the power she gets from it gets reduced, leaving Rostisa dejected from the constant ups and downs from using her ability for the first time. I can't help thinking Rostisa really got scammed with this deal of hers. Speaking of the devil, the Marquis is currently in a business meeting with all his big-time investors, and things aren't going well for him, mainly because they've all heard Duke Ferriton hasn't invested. But Marquis Terenka used the Duke's envelopes with his seal in order to fool the other men, and he twists the story in order to indicate that the Duke is trying to get the other investors to back off in order to monopolize the profit. Never realized the Marquis had such a silver tongue! Terenka leaves the room for a bit, confident of his lies, when one of his servants informs him of the arrival of their guest, the Princess of Ferriton, Rostisa. The Marquis of Terenka confirms whether or not Rostisa arrived alone. When he learns that she did, he has sent her to the greenhouse. Apparently, he thinks the girl has been abandoned by the Duke, therefore now he has one more thing to exploit. By just using her, he can gain access to the Duke's money. He bids his servant to inform him of the investor's decision. Meanwhile, he'll go see Rostisa. A devious smile forms on his face, thinking that he's so smart because of his new plant. Trust me, man, you are not smart. You're even way off on your assumption. But he finds that out for himself. Imagining that the girl is overwhelmed and delighted by the small comfort of seeing him in his beloved greenhouse, the Marquis's jaw almost drops to the ground when he sees Rostisa not only calm, but wearing some expensive clothes. So he decides to go straight to the point, acknowledging that her life is a little better now. But if he's straight to the point, so is she. Rostisa declares that she came back to take all her money the Marquis had taken. Immediately after, she activates her ability, allowing her to see the Marquis's emotions as he retorts back. Anger is the emotion that pops off of him, but really, she doesn't need to be polite for someone like the Marquis. He tries to say how ungrateful the child is after being accused of stealing money, all the while Rostisa's power keeps on popping up. She calmly says that his monostone mining business has all been built on her money, to which the flustered Marquis accidentally admitted that it was from her father's money. He did not like falling for a child's trap, by the way. But he's actually not worried about the money he covered up as an investment, but rather the mining quarry itself, as Rostisa finds out due to her ability. Using that, she made him so nervous that he can't even fight back with words. The Marquis gets saved, though, when his servant comes to get him. Rostisa, guessing that the investors are still the Marquis's guest, decides to follow him. The investors were all about to agree with the Marquis's plan, but fortunately, her arrival stops it, and with her charm, she even manages to sway the others as she accuses her uncle of embezzlement. The other aristocrats actually just laughed off Rostisa as a child using big words, accepting the Marquis's defense that a child has no knowledge of business and spending money. Oh, but our heroine came prepared with all the answers. Rostisa, still keeping the innocence of a child, simply questions why her father, who provided so much money in the first place, needed investment money from the Marquis when it was better to just invest himself. The Marquis is being caught in his sleazy moves. So satisfying. As a final nail to the coffin, Rostisa also brought a book recording her father's expenses. Knowing it will be his downfall, the Marquis tries to grab it first, but one of the investors, Duke Delvatren, manages to take it first. It seems that the Duke Ferriton's money was enough from last year, and none of it was missing. This exposed Marquis Terenka's scam. Initially, he planned to profit from the monostone quarry, but monostones don't naturally have mana. And so, he planned to have all 3 of his investors take the fall, and hopefully have Rostisa's father indicted. It's actually downright funny how the Marquis's emotions turned from wanting to sew the child's mouth shut to expressing great joy in eliminating her simply because he got outsmarted by a 4-year-old. And with that, Rostisa manages to force her uncle to return all the properties bought using her father's money. Not without teasing the Marquis about how little he can only pay back her father. All that teasing got the Marquis even glitching because of emotional overload. Rostisa manages to charm the pants off of all the aristocrats that were the Marquis's investors, though, especially Duke Delvatren. All 3 of them agreed that the Ferriton house has made a suitable heir. As she leaves, interestingly, Marquis Swellrodell, one of the investors, thinks the child's face was familiar. Yet surely it wasn't the same servant girl in Terenka's house from before. Yes, she is, unfortunately. But as they put it, she's like a tree that grows regardless of the soil, so they're eager to see her grow. And in fact, they're not the only ones proud of her. Feyreton's assistant, who had accompanied Rostisa, can't help but cry at how proud and mature the young lady was in handling business, truly heir to their house. Though he also mentions how it's too bad that she didn't inherit magic gas, her father's deadly ability. But compared to her terrifying father's feat of catching a monster at a young age, Rostisa's actions were more touching. Seems like something those two things are something a child shouldn't do, but that's just me. Speaking of the Duke, he suddenly arrives behind the two, clearly jealous that someone else is spending time with his beautiful daughter. The servant could do nothing but stay in a constant state of shock and fear as the Duke approached them. It seems that the Duke's reputation as a jealous father is well known. The poor Rostisa can't understand what's going on, though, and is still a bit confused as her father dragged the poor assistant away, who looked like a corpse the way he's so stiff with fear. Anyhow, she gets distracted from her father's antics by the house staff, who greets her lovingly as she arrives on the estate. As radiant as the sun, she smiles back at the people who always welcome her home. The family then decides to have tea in the gardens again, but it seems the Duke is distracted. He can't understand how his daughter is able to sway lots of people, even him. His assistant just laughs at him because he doesn't understand how much love he has for his daughter. Also, funny enough, the Duke tries to teach Rostisa about handling kidnappers and not following strange men, but his plan backfires on him when she doesn't allow him to touch her either, leaving the poor Duke dejected. But that night, the Duke finally decides to act against the Marquise, even attacking his mansion using his magic gas, and without covering his face. Of course, the Marquise's guards stand no match against the battle-hardened Duke. Marquise Terenka tries to talk his way out of getting killed, even threatening that his father would not approve of this. When the Duke pays him no heed, Marquise calls him brother-in-law and admits that his wife's persecution was, in fact, his own fault. He also rambles about how his sister had an affair, making Rostisa her illegitimate child. This finally catches the Duke's attention. A dark and ominous aura covers the whole place as the Duke Feyreton confronts Terenka, punishing him for his actions toward his daughter, Letitia. Terenka asks for mercy and begs for him to spare his life in front of him. Duke Feyreton suddenly grabs his necklace, so fast that Terenka thought his head was cut off. He then feels a sudden relief, thinking that Duke Feyreton spared his life because they're both from the same family. But it isn't the case. Terenka is in disbelief seeing the family heirloom, the ring that symbolizes the Terenka household, in Duke's hands. The ring being taken away means that he's being stripped of his title as Marquess and as Terenka. This also means that Terenka will now be powerless without the family ring. Rumors about that night spread like wildfire, eventually reaching Letitia. The news about the previously known Marquess Terenka, who has now become a commoner, makes Letitia more interested in his past. It turns out that the title of being the Marquess is a non-permanent title since the former Marquess opted for solitary retirement, thus automatically making Terenka the Marquess. All this information was relayed by Nancy, one of Letitia's maids. She adds that all of this might be because of one of his businesses turned out to be fraudulent, and the domino effect resulted in debts and a divorce. All the while, Letitia listens with a little feeling of fulfillment, completing her revenge on that damned family. It's impressive how the rumors were passed merely through employee connections, and because of this, Nancy even offers that Letitia can rely on her for anything. Seeing her maids makes her heart warm, but Lulu is still puzzled as to why they have to pack many things in the mansion. Duke Feyreton and Letitia are planning to go to the north and temporarily stay there. Fantasizing about the north intentionally ignores the system's notifications and prompts, but Lulu can't avoid the demon's calls, and then she reads it. A stat window appears in front of her showing the data she accumulated over the past days. After the sudden quest completion, she received a potion and coins. Then she is now given a quest chain where she must sit on a stack of money to increase her luxury. Yet Lulu is uninterested in doing all the work since she already has wealth. It is too early to celebrate her freedom until she sees the reward of the quest, a 10,000 coin reward. As soon as she knew, she accepted the quest. Recalling her conversation with the demon, she remembers requesting handsome brothers in that world. But as she asked the maids about her brothers, their faces became gloomy and downcast. At the Duke Feyreton's castle in the north, there are butlers and servants preparing necessary actions. The servant suggests to the butler to lighten the room a little bit since Letitia might not like the room being dark. This did not convince the butler to act, for what the servants say about Letitia might be rumors. At the carriage, there is Letitia, who's dressed like a bear, sitting on the opposite side of her father. She looks uncomfortable in her clothing, for it seems too hot for her. She was told that the north is a cold place, but instead it's the opposite. It was summer. Letitia insisted on wearing what the maids prepared for her since they love and care for her. She appreciates the love and effort of her maids by wearing it. "Aw, what a lovely child you are, Lulu!" As they arrived at the entrance, Duke's servants were already trembling, knowing the fact that the Duke is a scary tyrant. They were all trembling when all of a sudden Duke Ferriton carried Lulu in his arms like a baby. It was their first time the Duke acted like a doting father to his children. The both of them walked down the hall where all the servants are still in awe upon witnessing the Duke's sudden change of character around his daughter. Waiting upon their arrival were Lulu's brothers standing on the staircase. There we see Aries, the Duke's second child, and Ixion, the Duke's third child. Both of them emit satisfying visuals on their looks that made Lulu gawking in awe. Letitia starts to introduce herself, but Ixion interrupts her by calling her weak. This broke her heart as she expected him to be polite as he looked. Aries, on the other hand, is like an angel that fell from heaven. He's very soft and gentle to Letitia, showing a warm and light character to her. Aries' attitude changes Letitia's perspective on the novel she's in. Despite the decreasing temperature, Lulu finds a way to heat up herself, soaking in a hot spring. The calm feeling of warm temperature in the scenery, she couldn't ask for more. She wears her beautiful dress as she makes her way forward to meet her brothers. At the dining table, where her two brothers are seated, Aries calls Lulu's name at a distance. On the contrary, as Lulu is seated next to Aries, we can witness the menacing face of Ixion being annoyed by Lulu's presence. Ixion then spits insults towards Lulu, still considering her as a weakling. Aries' presence fills in the void-like behavior of Ixion for Lulu, making him the band-aid for Ixion's unwavering insults. It's like the darkness versus the light. Whilst Ixion is glaring at her, her saliva is dripping all over again, imagining things on her own. Lulu denies the allegations of her being attracted to Ixion's beauty. She insists that Aries is far better than Ixion, which fueled Ixion's temper. His dark aura spreads throughout the table. This caused the sudden notification in Lulu's system saying that she must teach Ixion some discipline. Seeing the quest penalty of game over, even though she's hesitant to do the quest, she accepted it. As Ixion sees the flaming courage on Lulu's eyes that seem like she'll start a rebellion, he launches an aura attack towards her. Luckily, Aries blocks the aura that was supposedly thrown to Lulu. A sibling rivalry! The atmosphere between the two brothers becomes intense, Aries protecting Lulu and Ixion throwing insults and rudeness. Letitia, on the other hand, is glad as her brother's attentiveness saved her. But it didn't stop their contest of aura. As the two brothers are about to start a war, Lulu immediately interferes using childish methods. She lures both of them into her cuteness. As the quite long battle between the brothers came to an end, Letitia's still puzzled as to what she would do upon accepting or rejecting the quest given to her. Despite having only a skill of mind reading and knowledge from the novels she's read, she aims to accept it for she trusts herself more than anything. While Ixion is walking through the hallway, Letitia is following him as if she was stalking. Ixion confronts her and tells her that he's annoyed by her mere presence. But Letitia has a plan. She invites her brother to play with her. Smart move, Lulu. This time, Ixion isn't going to hold back his show of power on Lulu since there will be no one that can protect her at the moment. He spreads out his aura again, looming the hallway, covering Lulu's field of vision. He is expecting some of Lulu's scared reaction, but she did not react. Instead, she was happy as she used a heroine skill to read Ixion's mind. He was flustered and surprised. Lulu then approaches her brother and tries to start playing tag with him. She teases him as she runs away towards the stairs, which also makes Ixion chase after her. Things are falling according to Lulu's plans. As she's busy looking at her system, showing the different steps on how to attack her brother in cute ways, she tripped herself. She realized this when her body started to fall parallel to the descending stairs. Expecting that someone would save her in the midst of her dilemma, someone actually did arrive. Ixion catches his lovely sister, preventing her from falling to the ground. She realizes that Ixion might be a good kid after all. But still, he wasn't. According to Lulu's notification, Ixion feels uneasy and offended after he realizes that he saved Lulu from falling. Lulu then tries to clarify that she only wants to get along with him, not annoy him. Seconds have passed. The Duke arrives and pokes her cheeks. The Duke asks Letitia if Ixion has been acting bad towards her. Ixion is trembling while he worries that Lulu would confess all the wrongdoings her brother did. He was about to come clean, but Letitia interferes. She denies the accusation of her brother and creates an excuse that totally caught Ixion off guard. A day passed. Lulu was all over the palace looking for Ixion, but she found nothing. She hasn't seen him for a day. Suddenly, Aries comes to the rescue of his troubled sibling. Lulu expresses her sulking, for she can't accept the fact that Ixion won't get along with her. Lulu's confession made Aries feel jealousy on how she thinks only for Ixion. All the while, Ixion is hiding on one of the hall's pillars, listening to their conversation. Aries, out of the blue, kisses Lulu on her cheeks after she complimented him. And this made Lulu blush so much. After the kiss, Lulu panicked in awe at what she had just received from her brother. "That's cute, Lulu." Then the both of them heard a loud bang on one of the columns. Out of nowhere, the column was already crumbling. The both of them went back to their rooms. In her room, she asks her maids if they saw Ixion around the palace, for she still did not see any presence of her brother. She came to the conclusion that Ixion might be avoiding her for some reason. Lulu recalls her brother's point of view as she realizes that he might hate her because she doesn't have an ounce of magic. She then asks her maids about it. One of them explains that the magi that Lulu has been talking about is some sort of a skill or power passed down in their family from generations. A different form of aura and mana. It's a different type of power that someone could have. Lulu then recalls her past life reading a novel that tackles magi. It's a power from a devil. A power that many people feared, and it's pitch black. The maids corrected Lulu for what she said. The magi is not the devil's power. Maybe some rumors say that it might be, but due to its tremendous power, it would make someone tremble and scared by just looking at its aura. Lulu says that she saw the magi several times, but it didn't scare her. Instead, she refers to it as a beautiful thing. She describes the magi as the night, warm and embracing her through her unconscious self. Outside in the attic, the two brothers were listening to their sisters babbling about the magi. The next day, the vassals were so surprised by what they saw in the report about Lulu retrieving all the assets that were stolen all by herself. Viscount Thierry, who was on duty while it was happening, witnessed how Lulu handled the situation so smoothly. At the center of the meeting, there was Lulu sitting on her father's lap, suggesting that the monostone mine she recently got from her uncle must be managed by her. This shocked the entire room. The vassals comment, suggesting that Lulu must not proceed to that since she hasn't received any education about the business world. Little did they know that Lulu is knowledgeable beyond doubt. The Duke backs her. He lets his daughter manage the mine on her own will. He declares that all of his daughter's words were absolute. The vassals seek for reconsideration, because it seems that the decision is rushed and is decided through his emotions. But her father stood tall. He tells everyone that if his daughter wants it, she'll have it. Lulu has become spoiled for this. In the hallway, holding a gift-wrap box in his hands, Viscount Thierry is delivering something special to someone. He hears a loud noise coming from the training room. Butler Alan then comes into the picture, saying that all the noise was caused by their master Ixion. Ixion spends a lot of time in training lately, and it might be because of the Duke's sudden return. Alan then asks Thierry as to what he's been carrying around. A cake full of cherries, all for Letitia. He only wants Lulu's reaction to anything he brings to her, which also makes her more excited for anything. At the training room, Ixion swings his destructive magi that seems to become more violent over time. As his instructor mentions Letitia's name in front of Ixion, he automatically glared his eyes like he's ready to cook him or something. He walks out of the room and tries to recall Lulu's words about the magi being the cozy night. He insists that those words of Lulu might be lies to help her cling and survive against the strong ones, referring to those people with magi. As he was strolling inside the palace, he noticed Lulu's absence. He usually sees his sister wandering around the hall with her cute little shoes squeaking around. He assumes that she must have gone to Aries, her favorite brother whom she loves dearly. Lulu might have forgotten to visit him. Ixion realized that he did not hear any of those squeaking sounds of her shoes all over the palace. Something must be wrong. He searched for any clues, and there he found Lulu's shoe on the ground together with big footsteps printed on the mud. He has to find her no matter what. He used his dark magi to trace his sister, and there he found her in the woods. Ixion suddenly appeared in front of the intruders that were kidnapping Lulu away from the palace. He released a massive and violent magi towards the two masked intruders, ending the both of them. Blood is splattered everywhere, and while Lulu is covered in it, she crawls her way out despite her trembling body. Ixion sees the sad and horrified look of his sister witnessing his magi being unleashed. The smile and goofy face of his sister is gone, contradicting what she said the other day that magi is a cozy night. He assumed that they were all lies. The helpless Lulu is still staring at her brother's handsome and fierce-looking face. He assumes that she has been pretending all along, not being afraid in front of him and pretending to understand him, and most of all pretending to like him. In the middle of all Ixion's sudden realization, he finds Lulu grabbing his clothes, calling his name. Seeing Lulu so inferior to him, he wants to end her himself. That's foul, Ixion! Lulu, in teary eyes, blames her brother for coming to her so late. She refers to him as a bad person. Lulu bawled all over Ixion's clothes while covered in blood. There, Ixion felt Lulu's vulnerability. It's as if she's been depending on him and expects to save her. He hugged her tightly, and for the first time he felt warmth from a person. He won't let Lulu keep crying. At the palace, a rageful aura is enveloping the room full of servants and vassals. The Duke is very mad because his daughter was being kidnapped in his own home without anyone noticing. So everyone's responsible for the fiasco. Aries is also beyond angry for how no one followed his father's order in protecting Lulu. The vassals suggest that they can still find out who the culprit behind the incident is. The kidnapper's identity is associated with the Dark Guild that works on commissions. Someone ordered them to kidnap Lulu, but they can't question them since both of them are already dead. Letitia comes to the scene where she offers help in determining the culprit. Despite the trauma and stress it caused to Letitia, she volunteered in helping the investigation. Even if she's wondering as to why no one asked her about who the culprit might be, her father doesn't want his daughter to have such a terrible and morbid nightmare. Still, she already knows who the culprit is. Someone in their household told her that she has to attend Ixion's training center, and she complied. It was Viscount d'Aries. Everyone was shocked. They see the Viscount being fond and adoring Lulu. The others can't believe what they heard. Viscount directly denies the allegations from Lulu. Lulu starts to question the Viscount, where she points out the details of that day. She knows better than anyone that Ixion doesn't have scheduled training. He just goes off training whenever he wants. So it won't be possible that the kidnapping was planned solely based on Ixion's training schedule. While everyone accuses d'Aries, Lulu stops him as she knows that Viscount d'Aries did nothing wrong. He's just loyal to her. She smiled at the crowd, asking everyone who did it, as she already knew who it was. She convinces Viscount d'Aries that he knows who the culprit is. He must recall carefully. Then the Viscount comes into conclusion. One person comes to mind that he met that day. Someone who asks the whereabouts of Lulu and whom he ordered to go to the gazebo beforehand. It was Alan. After the Duke heard Alan's name, he ordered the guards to drag him in front of everyone. All of a sudden, Aries complimented her, and it's like he already knew who was behind it. He was confident that Lulu's intuition was right. Lulu came up with an inference that Viscount d'Aries won't dare to harm her, for he has seen how the Duke can be frightening once he finds out, and he won't probably play the most ineffective trick to Lulu. Now the culprit is known. The Duke announces how irresponsible the vassals and servants were when the incident took place. He threatened all of them to be punished for letting the kidnapping happen. Letitia intervenes in her father's speech as she pleads with him not to pursue any punishments to the servants. Instead, she will take the blame for herself. Lulu's kindness worked on her father and everyone. We can see that her father withdraws the earlier threat, and everyone loves her for calming her father. The stat window appears and notifies her that the whole household respects her and her reputation inside the palace has increased. Now she receives 8,000 cash for the completion of this quest. Back in her room, as she checks the notifications, she notices an unfinished quest where it means that Ixion hasn't still considered Lulu as part of the family. She sets aside this problem, then summons the cash wheel where only a few prizes are being displayed ranging from 0 to 100 coin prizes that could help her in obtaining skills. Then she remembers the lucky potion she received the other day. She drank it and became lucky on the draws. Wow, impressive, Lulu! Now she has accumulated over 20,000 cash. She can finally summon a novel with a heroine skill she wants to use. In Ixion's room, Aries visits him while telling him things, like how Lulu wants to be friends with him and how desperate she is for that. For this, Aries shared his magi to his brother to recover what has been lost due to the incident. Then, Ixion sees his sister at the garden, and she approaches him. As Letitia is walking towards Ixion, she starts bleeding in her mouth and suddenly is about to faint. Seeing that Letitia is about to faint, Ixion quickly runs towards her as the maids panic. Meanwhile, Letitia sees Ixion's distress, so she tries to assure him that she's fine and that it's because of her power. In the past, when Letitia was about to pick her power, she copied a curse put on a terminally ill villainess. This would improve her health proportionately to the amount of love she would receive around her. Although, this is not originally the power that Letitia wanted. But since she can indirectly know her likability, She chooses this power even if it will cause her hemoptysis. At present, Lutetia still remains in deep slumber. Duke Phaeton is with the doctors, who stutter as they report to him their diagnostic results. Seeing the Duke's emotionless face, the doctor assures him that Lutetia is healthy and that only the Magi exhausted her. After hearing this, Duke Phaeton looks at Lutetia and thinks that since he brought her with him, there have always been problems. Yet he knows that he'll do anything for his daughter, not minding being at her mercy forever. When Duke Phaeton leaves the room, he instantly sees Ixion waiting for him with a guilty and worried face. Ixion instantly confesses that he is at fault as he purposely covered Lutetia with his magi since he wanted to test and see her real intentions. Duke Phaeton is surprised to see Ixion's expression since it's the first time he cares for someone like that. But he realizes that he's a coward for not accepting that her love for him is real. After that, Duke Phaeton assures Ixion that Lutetia is fine and that she'll never be in danger as long as he is around. He then taps Ixion, instructing him to care for his sister, which Ixion reluctantly accepts. That's some maturity from Ixion, acknowledging what he did. Afterward, Ixion checks Lutetia and sees that she's still sleeping, thus he tries to threaten that if she doesn't wake up, he'll kill her. However, he takes it back and honestly tells her that he wants her to be healthy so that he can know her better. Later that night, Lutetia recovers and sees Ixion caring for her. She then confirms if Ixion is taking care of her, to which Ixion answers that it's all because she's a weakling. Hearing this, Lutetia instantly feels glad. She bashfully looks at Ixion, whom she initially thought was only a naughty brat. She then realizes that they are both the same person. They were both hurt. Lutetia then tells Ixion that she knows he's been lonely like her, yearning for others' affection and company. It's the reason she always prays to have a family. Hearing this, Ixion becomes quiet and surprised. Lutetia continues proudly, telling Ixion she is stronger than ever because he's beside her. She tells Ixion she needs him to be her brother and to be by her side. Ixion's face is shocked after hearing Lutetia's statement, but he composes himself, replying that since she's weak, he promises to protect her from now on. Oh, Ixion, why can't you accept that you're starting to love Lutetia? Lutetia is then rewarded after finishing one quest because of being accepted by Ixion. Afterward, Lutetia requests that Ixion sleep with her. When he tries to reject her, she tells him that brothers always tuck their sisters to sleep, leaving Ixion no choice but to agree. While lying down together, Lutetia requests that Ixion stroke her hair, which he awkwardly follows, making Lutetia sleep easily. Next, Lutetia starts to dream and see the angels who put her in this situation. She quickly grabs him and calls him a scammer because he didn't tell her she would suffer a lot before seeing her family. Still shaken by Lutetia, the angel replies that he has granted everything to her. But it takes a while to calm Lutetia down, especially since the angel's words ring true. After that, the angel notices that time is running out and he needs to leave. But he realizes that he forgot to remind Lutetia of something. The following morning, Lutetia is surprised to see flowers on her bed. Thus, a maid happily informs her that these flowers are from Ixion, who had already left. The maids then start gossiping with Lutetia, saying that if it weren't for them entering the room, Ixion would have stayed until Lutetia woke. Still, since Ixion doesn't allow others to see him sleeping, he quickly leaves after seeing the maids. Hearing this, Lutetia feels touched. Meanwhile, in the meeting room, while waiting for Duke Phaeton, the officials start to talk about his sudden change in attitude after Lutetia's arrival. They start out with how he deeply cares for Lutetia, thinking that one reason might be that she brought Terenka's asset. Others also note how the Duke looks at Lutetia favorably, thus they believe being on her good side is best. After a while, one official advises Aries that he is the best to nip Lutetia in the bud as early as possible to save him from trouble in the future. However, Aries makes no response. Meanwhile, after getting ready, Lutetia upgrades the Aphtani's contract and is happy that her cash has increased because of the quest she completed in the past few days. The book warns Lutetia that she isn't in this world by chance and must be prepared for the nearing time when the light will dim and darkness will encroach on the world. Hence, her family and those she loves will fall against the freezing world. After reading this, Lutetia starts to worry, but gains courage after realizing she's not alone and her loved ones will become her source of strength. Lutetia then accepts all the quests to acquire more power to protect her loved ones, while courageously deciding that she will choose her path from now on. What a brave cotton ball kid! Afterward, the officials are shocked that Lutetia would be attending their meeting with Duke Phaeton. The Viscount tried to object but quickly stops after seeing the Duke's scary aura. During the meeting, other officials wonder why Ixion is attending such a meeting since he doesn't mind this kind of stuff. They start to think that there's something weird in the Phaeton household. Afterward, Duke Favoriton announces that Lutetia will be given an aid, which Winkcern quickly objects to, stating that she doesn't deserve this since she has no magi. Thierry quickly cuts Winkcern off, shouting at him that Lutetia isn't an ordinary child. After all, she's a Favoriton who helped reveal the Marquess's fraud, saving the Favoriton's reputation from tarnishing. While the officials debate the matter, Lutetia notices that Duke Favoriton and the elders are calm. She then realizes this is a test to find the traitor and see if she is qualified to have aides. Lutetia also remembers the hint the book gave her, proving her hunch is right. Upon learning this, Lutetia plans to pass the test silently. She swiftly plants a kiss on Duke Favoriton's cheeks and thanks him for trusting her, making the Duke smile. This action also shocks the officials since they rarely see the Duke smile, and to top it off, be kissed freely by the kids. Afterward, Lutetia approaches Aries and asks if they can eat sweets together soon. Aries quickly smiles at her. Why wait when they can eat sweets now? Lutetia then cutely asks him if he isn't busy now, but Aries slightly pings her nose, telling her that he isn't busy and will find time for her. I don't trust Aries. He might have other motives. Next, Lutetia is annoyed and worried that Ixion is joining them. He and Aries might argue again. Still, she stops and looks at her brothers together, enjoying the sight before her. Aries begins to poke Lutetia's cheeks, complimenting how puffy they are. But this action shocks Ixion and makes Lutetia blush. Noticing this, Ixion starts to annoy Lutetia to get her attention too. Aries starts to ask Lutetia why she became interested in the mana mining business when they know that the mana mine is empty. Hearing this, Lutetia wants to answer that it's because it's part of her quest, but then Aries would learn about her secret. Thus, she explains to him that the mana mine is like a worthless husk that can be turned into a success when used correctly. Listening to Lutetia's explanation, Aries emotionlessly remarks that she is bold to think that way, something that chills Lutetia's body. Yet he smiles as he says that, and because of this, Lutetia realizes that from the first time they met, he has always been sweet. Straightforwardly, she asks Aries if he thinks they are a family and if he really sees himself as her brother. Aries smiles, commenting why she is stating the obvious. But after Aries responds, she realizes there isn't a notification saying she completed the quest. Because of this, she instantly realizes that Aries is faking it, and the hints given to her point out that Aries is involved in her kidnapping. Ixion quickly butts in and tells Aries to stop pretending since family to him are people who kill each other. Ixion shares that Aries knew all along about the people who snuck into the castle, hence why Aries was helping him that night. Seeing how they already know the truth, Aries stops pretending and smirks at them, commenting that Ixion is smarter now. Meanwhile, Lutetia sees Aries' target affection for her is -666. Because of this, Lutetia bursts out and rants to Aries that she trusted and poured her heart into him. She starts to question Aries if he hates her that much, adding that his beauty and wickedness is enough to bring the downfall of a country. But this only makes Aries smile, thinking that it is a compliment for him. Aries, you are a weird guy. I hope you become a good person. Seeing that Lutetia is about to charge at Aries, Ixion quickly holds her, telling her to calm down. Lutetia asks Aries why he hates her and if she did something to offend him, but Aries tells her that it is only because she is a Favoriton. Thus, he considers her his rival for the head of the Favoriton household. Hearing this, Lutetia feels satisfied that Aries acknowledges her as a Favoriton and not a defective product that doesn't possess magi. She realizes that from the start, he has seen her as a rival standing at the same starting line. After knowing this, Lutetia runs towards Aries and asks him if he will stop being hostile to her. Would he accept her if she says she's not interested in becoming the head of the household? This renders Aries speechless. But then Lutetia quickly takes her statement back, commenting that it might rub Aries the wrong way if she actually means what she just said. Without a second thought, she then proceeds to leave. But as she walks away, Lutetia suddenly faints. Ixion runs towards her, giving her a piggyback while looking back at Aries, who for the first time is still stunned. A few hours later, Lutetia wakes up and realizes she has completed the quest of kissing her father, eating with Aries, and being piggybacked by Ixion, the last one being easy because she fainted. Aries then notices that Lutetia is awake. He starts commenting on her weakness and tells her he doesn't want a rival who can't even care for herself. Afterward, Lutetia gets up and announces that she needs to catch the traitor who is in cahoots with their uncle in extorting child support money. She looks at Aries and tells him that he must find the guys. Hearing this, Aries realizes that Lutetia is just like him. Thus, he offers to form a temporary alliance, making it clear that he's not really doing this for her. Without objections, Lutetia instantly agrees. I have a feeling that when that switch is flipped, Aries will be the one who'll be the craziest in defending Lutetia. After knowing that Lutetia has fainted again, Duke Favoriton quickly calls the doctors, intending to punish them. Luckily, Lutetia manages to persuade her father that she is fine. All this blood vomiting thing only means bad energy would pass soon, something that the doctors quickly agree to. Lutetia even shows her hand and tells her father that her hands are warm, which is a good sign. Duke Favoriton then holds Lutetia's hand and kisses it. He pokes her forehead and tells her not to worry him too much. Lutetia then excitedly tells her father that she wants to eat a certain bread, making the Duke curious about the bread. She then announces to him that the bread she likes the most in the whole world is Dad's bread. What a corny pickup line! Hearing this, Duke Favoriton quickly asks for a book, which the butler quickly hands him. Lutetia also looks at the book's contents, only to realize that it's her baby diary that the Duke fills out, making her happy. Afterward, Lutetia is alone while resting from her stuns. She suddenly feels embarrassed by the pickup line that she told her father, but then feels glad that the doctors are unharmed. Next, a message suddenly appears, asking if she wants to claim her additional reward. Seeing this, Lutetia agrees and sees that the reward is a Hermes birdie who can deliver a letter to anyone she wants. After accepting the reward, a cute bird appears in front of her, which she quickly hugs since she finds it cute. Still, the bird quickly backs away and accuses Lutetia of being disappointed since she might have been expecting a handbag, not a bird. Lutetia assures the bird that that's not the case, and hands the bird some snacks, a gesture that the bird tries to reject but fails to do so. Next, Lutetia starts to think about her remaining quests, believing that the easiest to complete might be being acknowledged by Aries, which she finds strange. While Hermes is busy snacking, Lutetia starts to think how strange it is that she still hasn't completed her quest to be acknowledged, when in the first place, Aries already treats her as his rival in being the head of the Favoriton household. She stops after realizing that Aries might not consider her a family member, but rather a target to be purged. Perhaps she isn't even part of Aries' future plans. Lutetia realizes that Aries thinks he doesn't have any genuine family, so he rejects her and shuts her out, a thought that makes Lutetia sad. Afterward, Ixion approaches Lutetia, and she asks him if he thinks being part of a family is good and if he likes it. Ixion ponders on it, but he soon admits that he does like it, albeit bashfully. Ixion curiously asks her what bread she wants. It turns out he's caught wind of that since it's what the others are talking about, but Lutetia feels embarrassed but has no choice to repeat her pickup line since Ixion starts to look disappointed. Thus, she tells Ixion she likes brother's bread while making a heart sign. Seeing this, Ixion can't handle her cuteness, making his reaction close to an explosion. Well, she is too cute to handle. Later that day, while Aries is walking to the office to meet Lutetia, he remembers how she noticed that he didn't really want her kidnapped. After all, he would have saved her if he could, because if he did, then he'd get credit, strengthening his claim and becoming head of the family. Aries remembers how Lutetia points out that he's growing more fond of her. However, since Aries did something bad to her, she promises to not easily forgive him, taking him by surprise. Arriving at the office, Lutetia greets Aries and proceeds with their meeting. She then asks who Aries thinks is the traitor who works with Terenka. Aries smirks, pointing out how confident she is that he knows who it is, but Lutetia patronizes him. After all, he is smart. Lutetia suddenly notices that Aries' likability towards her increased after hearing her logical explanation. Thus, she asks Aries to help her get the work logs of the auditors for the past 3 years. She explains that the auditor would have personally visited the Terenka household to investigate whether they used the child support money correctly. After this statement, Lutetia suddenly starts to tear up since she realizes that her family never abandoned her. Hearing this, Aries is curious if that is what Terenka told her these past few years. Seeing Lutetia looking down, he asks her to look at him and confirm if that is what she was thinking before, to which she nods. Aries then tells Lutetia that no one can ever abandon her and that he is the only exception. Afterward, Lutetia expresses that her uncle might have given the auditor a large sum of money so they could look the other way. Aries feels content with Lutetia's logic, thus he hands her the list of auditors. Soon after, she figures out who the traitors are. Asen Klache, David Alua, and Sol Chiante. However, she also knows that these 3 have a big boss, thus she does not plan to do anything with the traitors yet until she catches the big fish. Aries then questions Lutetia why she is confident that he is not part of it, to which she replies that she knows he doesn't work that way. Next, when they are about to leave, Aries starts to tease Lutetia about her bread pickup line, and then asks her which brother bread she means. To this, she can't help but feel embarrassed at being put in a tight spot. I love Aries way more than when he was pretending to be perfect. Alone in her room, Lutetia starts to claim her reward after completing her quest to find the traitors. She then picks another ability, getting hit with a tax bomb. This bomb allows her to track the income of the person she comes face to face with and then collect it after taxation. In short, she can track their funds. After, Lutetia realizes she might also need to see the other elders, and meeting them won't be easy since she has to wait a long time for the next conference. The following day, Aries tells her she can meet the elders during the New Year's grand banquet, which gives her an advantage. Lutetia also starts to feel excited because she can see and witness the power struggle among the guests. Aries smirks and asks what else she's looking forward to which she answers that she also looks forward to a chocolate fountain. Aries tells her there have been no chocolate fountain in the past New Year, but he would make it happen since she requested it. His thoughtfulness makes Lutetia hug him, expressing that he's the best. Later, while resting, Aries confronts Lutetia about her goal and asks when she can meet important people within the household. She then confesses that she wants to see who backs the traitors, but Aries finds this strange since she can only know who it is by looking at their faces. She then tells Aries that since they are temporarily in an alliance, she will tell him her secret. Lutetia slowly moves closer to Aries and whispers that she can read minds. Aries is flabbergasted by her behavior and thinks she's pranking him. However, Lutetia proceeds to say that since she is still a child, she can use her eyes to see the truth. Aries indulges her, asking if she thinks he's good or bad, but Lutetia quickly moves away and tells Aries he is bad for her since her heart is pounding. What a cute sibling duo! When the banquet day arrives, the maids are so happy to see how beautiful and cute Lutetia looks in her gown. Aries and Ixion argue about their behavior while waiting for Lulu to finish getting dressed. Shortly after, they are scolded by Favoriton. Lulu then announces her entrance as she descends the staircase, greatly enthralling all three. Immediately, she points at them and warns that if they continue talking, she won't speak to them anymore. Aries approaches Lulu to ask if he can be her escort during the banquet, but Ixion quickly snatches her away from Aries, insisting she doesn't have to listen to him. Confidently, Favoriton lifts Lulu, claiming that she likes him the most, so he should be her escort. Lulu compares the scene before her to a romance novel, where the female lead has all the male leads at her command. Lulu catches Aries looking at her, and as she glances back, she notices the number above his head is negative. Internally, she complains, lamenting that even if he isn't crazy about her, it shouldn't be that low. Lulu then tells her father to put her down, stating that she's too young to have a partner anyway. Aries agrees, but notes that he and Lulu have something to do at the banquet. After this, Lulu whispers in his ear that he has no chance and that she still hasn't forgiven him, leaving him stunned. Lulu then decides and announces to everyone that she will go with all three of them. When they begin to protest, Lulu warns that if they don't stop, she'll go with the maids instead. Ixion and Aries immediately adjust their attitudes. At the banquet, Favoriton is in the inner room discussing matters with the other elders, while Ixion flees because he can't handle the overwhelming pressure. Meanwhile, Aries silently observes, knowing his sister is about to determine who among the elders is most likely to betray them. Shortly after, the elders emerge and greet Lulu. However, their warm smiles, especially Aries's, are short-lived when Lulu suddenly points at someone and shouts that he's a bad person. Lulu enjoys the chocolate fountain prepared by her brother, Aries. Two guests entertain her and ask if she wants them to prepare chocolate for her. Shortly after, the elders come out of the room and ask if she's enjoying the banquet. She affirms, but admits that she has no idea who they are. She then introduces herself, prompting the elders to praise her ability to introduce herself so well at such a young age. Afterward, she asks if they all hold high-ranking positions. Realizing she must identify the bad person among the elders, she carefully chooses one to use her ability on. Lulu selects the elder who is more polite rather than the rude one, as the obvious choice would be too easy. As she appraises the elder named Count Jorgenheim, she discovers that he has unreported profits on which no taxes were paid. After completing her assessment, she calls him out, shouting that he's a tax evader. Flustered, Jorgenheim dismisses her claims as mere child's talk. However, Lulu persists, which causes Jorgenheim to grab her hand roughly, hurting her. He warns her that if she doesn't keep quiet, she'll be held accountable and her reputation will be ruined. In pain, Lulu cries out for her brother Aries. As Aries approaches, he wonders what about her actions is so secretive and cautious. Lulu promptly clings to him, hiding behind him, hoping her older brother will protect her. He reflects that despite his usual neglect, she trusts him completely. The number above his head immediately becomes 1 when he finally acknowledges his sister. He reassures Jorgenheim that he will not subject him to an unwarranted interrogation, but he will not overlook the fact that Jorgenheim made Lulu cry. Lulu finally made Aries care for her. The overwhelmingly negative number above his head changed to a 1, which is drastically better than a negative or even 0, the latter signifying no interest at all. Aries comforts Lulu while teasing her, saying she has grown into a crybaby. As Jorgenheim becomes increasingly agitated, the elders behind him start to worry about what might happen to the council if Jorgenheim is prosecuted. The other council members plead with Aries to reconsider, especially since the elders have served the Favoriton household for years. Aries responds that if they truly are not conspiring with Jorgenheim against the Favoriton family, then they have nothing to fear. Count Candor agrees with Aries' statement, claiming he has not been involved in anything Jorgenheim has done, if that is true. With this, Candor discourages the other council members who were defending Jorgenheim. Aries is impressed by Candor's ability to pressure not only Jorgenheim, but also the rest of the council. Jorgenheim is frustrated that his plan to use the council members has failed, though he still feels he has the upper hand since there is no evidence against him. He then tries to provoke Aries, stating that Aries is not as smart as he thought. Aries retorts that Jorgenheim should retire since he's getting senile. Shortly after, Duke Favoriton arrives, stealing everyone's attention. Before Jorgenheim can explain the situation, Lulu immediately cries out to her father to expose Jorgenheim. Favoriton initially thought Lulu posed no threat, but his demeanor changes upon hearing this. Favoriton's subordinate informs him about what happened earlier. Favoriton then tells everyone there must be a reason Lulu said what she did. Lulu takes this opportunity to explain that she overheard them scheming. Agitated, Jorgenheim fervently defends himself, but Favoriton doesn't buy any of his excuses. Jorgenheim even accuses Lulu of scheming, which greatly upsets Favoriton. Lulu rambles on about how she would have schemed if she were capable, but Aries and Favoriton pay no attention, thinking she's just an innocent little kid. Later, Lulu is glad she calmed down after her father arrived, or else things would have gone worse. She apologizes to Aries for being reckless earlier, but appreciates that he took her side. Aries thinks Lulu doesn't need to be intimidated by him, especially since what she did helped him solve troublesome matters concerning their family. He realizes that despite Lulu's earlier blunder, he isn't as upset as he normally would be. He recalls a time when he talked with his father, who claimed he would be enemies with Lulu. However, Favoriton had already anticipated that they would get along well in the future. Finally, acknowledging Lulu, the meter above Aries' head overloads. Moved by Lulu's genuine trust and courage, Aries finally admits that Lulu is his beloved precious sister, albeit an annoying one. Upon hearing this, Lulu feels relieved and overjoyed. Suddenly, Ixion arrives and is promptly greeted by Aries' bitterness. Aries ignores him and proceeds to pat Lulu's head. As Lulu covers Aries' hand, the two boys notice a hand mark on her arm. Frustrated, Ixion asks who gave her such a mark. As his anger rises, a worried Lulu tells him to hug her. Though Ixion knows she's trying to calm him, he still can't resist her. After Ixion calms down, Lulu suggests they try the chocolate fountain. Favoriton asks what she feels like eating, and she replies that she'd like to try bananas. Without hesitation, Favoriton prepares a chocolate-covered banana, which greatly puzzles the boys. This unprecedented behavior from Duke Favoriton is a sight they never thought they would see. Lulu then asks Ixion what he wants. Though he isn't interested, he chooses marshmallows because they remind him of Lulu. She asks her father to make it for him, which flusters Ixion. However, when Lulu presents him with a chocolate marshmallow shaped like a bunny, he can't resist. Afterward, Lulu asks Aries what he likes, and he impassively says he's not picky. Ixion points out that Aries doesn't care, making Lulu feel bad. Trying to make up with her, Aries says he would like one. Lulu decides to give him a marshmallow shaped like a sheep, since he resembles one. Lastly, she picks a kitten-shaped marshmallow, which makes everyone in the room burst out laughing. Seeing this wonderful sight, Lulu is overjoyed. She used to be pessimistic about the future, but now that she has her father and brothers, it feels like a dream come true. She wishes days like these would last. Soon after, Lulu once again meets with Aphthanes. The first thing Aphthanes does to Lulu is tease her, prompting Lulu to hit him. She then tells him that he isn't even adorable. He's just annoying. Without any further delay, Lulu cuts to the chase and asks Aphthanes what's happening. He replies that a danger will soon befall them. Lulu then asks a series of questions about the nature of the attacker, but Aphthanes refuses to answer any of them. The only thing he tells her is that if her influence increases, the calamity that will befall them will be less severe. By that point, Aphthanes will be able to share more information. For now, it's best for Lulu to figure things out on her own. Lulu then assumes that perhaps she's the heroine of the story, which Aphthanes doesn't deny. However, Lulu's delusion falters when she begins to think she's become the sole protagonist and that the original protagonist is now irrelevant. This conceit makes Aphthanes miserable, as she isn't listening to anything he's trying to say. Ultimately, Lulu decides her role is to save the world, which Aphthanes thinks isn't entirely wrong, so he lets it be. After allowing Lulu to celebrate her own delusions, Aphthanes finally tells her why he called her to the dream world in the first place, to reveal a young yet dangerous individual. However, after Aphthanes discourages her from meeting this boy, Lulu becomes obsessed with his appearance, completely ignoring Aphthanes' warnings. When she wakes up, she immediately thinks about where to find the boy. She reasons that if the boy is only dangerous because of his power, then he's no different from the boys in her own family. Lulu then checks her notifications, which reveal that her family, Kandor, and the other elders of the council are all on the same page as her. She then poses an absurd question about subjugating a vassal. A difficult task, but one she's determined to undertake. Though she initially considers Viscount Dier, she quickly dismisses the idea. Before starting her quest, she opens her book to level up her traits and is surprised to find she can now unlock new abilities. Excluding passive abilities, of course. Shortly after, Favoriton arrives and Lulu immediately shares her newfound information, but both are unsure whether this is a good idea. In the end, Lulu gets her own office. Despite declining her father's offer for traditional reasons, Favoriton states that he has no problem with traditions, so in the end, she gets her own room. She then calls in the new vassals she recruited. The vassals introduce themselves as Yoloche Belka, Green Shokal, and Piano Phoebe. These are the vassals who supported her, including Count Dier. Amusingly, all of their names are inspired by the color of their hair. However, among the four, there is one particular member Lulu is not amused by, Dier. He overwhelms Lulu with his extreme enthusiasm. After dealing with Dier, Lulu discusses their work. She notes that she's been planning to promote the monostone business, so she asks everyone what they have prepared, which shocks them all. They think there's no doubt she's a daughter of the Favoriton. Yoloche then wonders how Dier managed to achieve such an amazing feat and become the head of the counselors. Shortly after, Green responds, admitting he hasn't prepared anything. This makes Lulu proud, since he didn't attempt to deceive her and stayed genuine. Annoyed, Dier disqualifies them all for not having the initiative to prepare anything. He claims that he's the only one fit to serve Lulu and no one else. Seeing this behavior, the other three vassals agree that Dier is not right in the head. After being asked to present his preparation, Lulu inspects it and is greatly impressed. She wonders how someone like Dier can be so capable and struggles to accept how he's so perfect. Seeing that the vassals are impressed as well, Lulu immediately asks for Dier's first name. He introduces himself as Radian. Afterward, she passes him. Excited, he asks Lulu to make a vow to him similar to the vow she made with her father. She wonders how he knows about this, of course. Upon hearing this, she promptly sends the rest of the vassals outside, making them feel envious. Troubled, Lulu feels miserable as she wonders how to conduct the vow. Radian then tells her that aside from the vow, there's something else he wishes to discuss with her. Meanwhile, Ixion and Aries are arguing yet again as they both plan on visiting Lulu. Suddenly, Favoriton appears out of nowhere, claiming that Lulu is going to have to spend time with him. As they arrive, Radian comes out of the room to greet them. As Radian emerges from Lulu's office, the boys glare at him menacingly. Noticing that he's carrying a paper with a suspicious red stain, they gang up on him. Terrified, Radian is so frightened that he can't even form words. Meanwhile, Lulu is still baffled by Radian's earlier request, but fortunately, everything went smoothly. For Radian, a simple stamp from Lulu is as meaningful as an oath of allegiance, which leaves him overjoyed. She then inspects the monostone Radian gave her, thinking she could profit from it. Upon further investigation, she realizes she can actually install new abilities, specifically abilities of a female protagonist from a novel. When she uses it, she briefly sees a path of money, but it vanishes immediately as the monostone runs out of energy. This leaves her conflicted, wondering whether she should use this ability to promote a business or keep it a secret herself. Ultimately, she decides to keep it to herself and cunningly spreads a rumor that she bought a worthless item instead. Later, she orders Radian to buy all the mines at the lowest possible price. He warns her that it won't be easy since many people are interested in purchasing mines as property. Lulu notices that Radian doesn't look well and asks about it, but he dodges her question and instead praises her. Realizing he won't admit anything, she cuts him off and agrees that acquiring the mines will be difficult. Radian then suggests they spread false information. Lulu is delighted by the idea and reminds Radian not to use family funds, to which he wholeheartedly agrees. Lulu asks if Radiant has any further questions, but he insists he doesn't, declaring himself a loyal servant who trusts her judgment and will act wisely. Lulu then realizes she can use someone else's funds, specifically Jorgenheim's, who is currently imprisoned. She visits him to use her ability to collect his taxes, but since he can't pay, she has to collect a physical manifestation of his taxes instead. Though hesitant, her abilities reassure her that it's acceptable since she's recognized by the Ardentwell Empire. She then realizes that this isn't a legal tax collection at all, but rather theft. Lulu feels defeated after realizing her efforts have led to theft. Unexpectedly, she notices Daphne's necklace among the items she has acquired and immediately collects it. Meanwhile, the council is still engaged in a heated discussion about Jorgenheim's actions. When they notice Candor's presence, they pause, but Candor urges them to continue. As Candor steps aside and looks out the window, he sees Lulu playing but chooses to ignore her. Later, regretting that he ignored her he finds the time to speak with her. He tells Lulu that the letter she sent was meant for the wrong person, as he has no intention of being commanded by anyone. Lulu presents Daphne's necklace to him, leaving him in disbelief. When he asks where she got it, Lulu responds with a menacing smile and asks if he wants to make a deal. When Candor asks what she wants, she says nothing. Shortly after, Candor finds himself in Lulu's office having tea time and feeling perplexed. Lulu begins talking about Daphne Naya, which greatly intrigues Candor. He asks what she knows, and she admits that she knows he was Daphne's boyfriend. When Candor confirms this, she curiously asks what happened to their love story. She fires a series of questions at him, making Candor skeptical of her intentions. As Lulu continues her barrage of questions, Candor suddenly reminisces about the good times he shared with Daphne, memories he had almost forgotten but are now becoming vivid again. Ooh, we're getting a flashback! At an evening party, a young Candor encounters a young maiden named Daphne. She trips and he stares at her, making her flustered. Noticing one of her heels is broken, Candor asks if she needs help. She then asks him to carry her, and having no other option, he carries her like a princess. She apologizes for accidentally hitting him, saying it wasn't her intention. As he gazes at her, he can't even find the words to say he's fine. Eventually, they fall in love and become engaged. At present, Lulu is delighted to hear such a heartwarming romance between the two. She says something that reminds Candor of Daphne. However, fate was unkind when Daphne suddenly disappeared overnight, leaving behind a bloodied ring. The official story claims she died in a monster attack while eloping with another lover. But upon hearing this, Lulu immediately tells Candor that the story is false. This does not amuse the Count. In fact, he is furious, even though Lulu is a Phaeton. Lulu clarifies that she is a good kid and won't use his past memories to her advantage, but Candor senses something different about her. She's not typical. To ease his doubts, Lulu gives him an envelope containing a document stating that Daphne was never with another man nor killed by a monster. Instead, she was kidnapped for human experiments and eventually died. Horrified, Lulu then asks Candor if he wants to find out who the real culprit is and offers to help him exact revenge. He declines revenge, but still wants to know the truth. Lulu notes that there is no evidence to verify the document, so Candor must trust her word. He considers investigating himself, but feels inclined to believe Lulu. She then tells him she got Daphne's necklace from Jorgenheim. Curious, Candor asks how she stole it. Lulu responds that it was with the help of the Ardentwell tax law, though Candor doesn't understand and suspects she wants to keep it secret. Candor admits that Daphne was the reason he hated love. Despite many arranged marriages, he declined them all because he only wanted Daphne. Lulu then suggests the possibility that Daphne had a child all along. Shocked, Candor wishes to believe his child survived. Lulu asks if he wants to see his child, and he asks what she truly wants in return. Lulu tells Candor that she has many things she wants him to do, but regardless, she will still help him meet his child. Although Candor's doubts about her intentions increase, she reassures him that she sympathizes with him and insists she's not trashy. Candor agrees to Lulu's proposal after she schedules a meeting for next time. As he is about to leave, Lulu reveals that the child was in Daphne's womb during the experiment, so Candor might not be entirely right in the head. Candor smiles as he says he still wants to meet the child because he's not trashy either. After Candor leaves, Lulu speaks to a silhouette, apparently Candor's son, who is skeptical about whether his father will accept him. Lulu reassures him that Candor will accept him just as she has. After some convincing, the son agrees and expresses his desire to meet his father. The next day, a messenger bird lands on Candor's window with a message. After reading it, Candor smiles warmly and feeds the bird, which eagerly devours the food. Shortly after, a maid enters, mentioning how wonderful it is that Lulu gave her a painting of a snake. Candor clarifies that it isn't a snake, but two golden arrows with a deeper meaning. Later, Candor nervously waits as Lulu escorts him to the gazebo to meet his son. Despair overtakes him when he sees no one and thinks he's been deceived. However, a warm voice calls to him, revealing his son. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!